well, you?
Feels good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it feels warm about
It's private video. Why is that a private video? Oh, Lordy.
We all set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second suspension.
Well, welcome everyone to the Lincolnville Select Board meeting. It is the 8th of July. And before we get going, Mike, would you read the quote?
Sure. Yeah, the only tired I was tired of giving in. Rosa Parks.
Thank you very much. And now I'd like to open the podium for any non-agenda items. Come on.
Hello, I'm Greta Gallucci, Searsmont Road. I'm here to just share an idea that's percolating in the community. I'm here representing the Lincolnville Community Pickleball players and just give you a general update. The outdoor season's going well. If you want more questions, I can give you specifics. Just a quick thing that we have a Team Reach app now that anybody can sign into and see when we have regular play posted and then pop-ups. The people who regularly play pickleball are really thrilled that the infrastructure was improved and the addition of pickleball courts lines were added. We've been enjoying them since the end of July last year. We had hoped to do some sort of little opening welcome kind of community event, but summer got away from us. So we're here this year, and in an effort to let the residents of Lincolnville know how much we appreciate their support for doing that upgrade and the addition of the pickleball court lines, the players fundraised, and we donated a 6-foot picnic table to the town that's down at the courts. It has 2 coats of wood stain on it so far. A third one needs to get on, but that's going to happen a little later. And in addition, there's been a suggestion in the community that we do something else to show our appreciation to the town for doing that wonderful upgrade. And so an idea started about doing some sort of a pickleball event where people register and pay a fee. And the proceeds of that, it would be like a round robin or pickleball scramble or something like that, would go to the LIA High School Scholarship Fund. So I have been in contact with the LIA, and they were very eager to hear about that and thought it was a great idea. In order for that to happen, we would need some more planning and some advanced time to get it together. I've got a core group of people who are willing to work on it. We're looking if we get approval. I had spoken to Dave King about it, and he had said run it by the rec commission, so I went to their meeting at 4 this afternoon. They did not have a quorum, there were just 2 members there. So I gave them the same little spiel. And they said, I think you need to go to the select board. And I said, well, I know I need to be on the agenda. But it's kind of time sensitive because we're looking at the last weekend in August. Sorry, I don't have the date. Maybe it's the 24th. It's before the Labor Day weekend. And what we would need in order to plan it is to have a date certain with a rain date the following day. So it's a Saturday, rain date Sunday. And be able to reserve the courts for a 4-hour period, because there's no way we can do an organized event with lots of people coming if we can't reserve the courts. So the rec commission said, you know, they didn't have a quorum, they couldn't act on that. I know the citizens forum is a time where you just listen, you don't respond. So I just thought I would put that out there so you guys know, because I, you know, talked to the rec commission now and the LIA, and so you may be hearing it. And people are really excited about it, and we think it's a great way to show our appreciation and play it forward, because we're gonna have fun doing it, and we can donate to the scholarship fund. So I will ask David next week in a timely fashion to get on the agenda in 2 weeks, but if we aren't able to get a date and that we could reserve it, the idea probably won't go forward. So I just wanted to give you that update.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else for any non-agenda items? Seeing nothing, let's move along to the administrator's report.
Beyond the agenda, in case you are unaware, the former McLaughlin's Lobster Shack has been moved. I would anticipate at some point that the ferry service is probably going to be located near the barricade when they figure out what they're doing, and the free-for-all will be on, although I don't know if it'll be free, but anyhow, the went to their, it was a pre-construction, post-construction meeting. We got invited down the day before, per usual, and they still don't have any definitive plans in terms of upgrades or improvements, as far as anybody there was aware of. We've working behind the scenes, preparing the request for proposals for engineering services for the Hardy Brook crossing. That ad will probably appear in next week's paper. We'll send it out to known people that have submitted proposals before, as well as anybody that finds it either in the paper or on our website. Calderwood Lane reconstruction continues. We have a meeting, I wouldn't call it a monthly construction meeting, but a 3-week construction meeting later this week. And we'll know more, we'll have an updated schedule in the packet, because they thought they'd be a little further along than they are, but they have till fall to get it done, so no harm, no foul there. Our fiscal year ended June 30th. We're started commencing putting together the stuff for our audit, but it's kind of hard to do. We don't have last year's audit still, the next year's or current year's, but we can get our information together. We've also commenced with this behind the scenes work on the November election. Believe it or not, November will be here before you know it. We get periodic communication from the Secretary of State's office on that, as well as wrapping up the disactivated voter participation history portion of their central voter registration. There we go. So we'll be inputting that data from the June election into that here. It started today and we'll continue until that's done. We have till middle of August to complete that. As you know, we're still operating short-staffed in the office, which is adding a little bit of a wrinkle to the summer schedule for people, but we're working on it. Lien notices went out, and we will be filing liens for unpaid taxes. Can't remember the date, but before the month is over. So it's in the notice if you happen to get that. Outside of that, I think the agenda is lengthy enough.
Any questions for David on any of that? All right, let's move along to upcoming meetings and announcements.
All right, all meetings are here in the town office unless announced otherwise. The planning board is scheduled to meet Wednesday, July 10th, 7 p.m. Conservation Commission Thursday, July 11th, 4 p.m. Heart and Soul team is having a meeting on safe access on Thursday, July 11th, 4 p.m. at Breezemere Park. Meeting that isn't on your agenda, but should be on your agendas, is next Monday, July 15th, The select board will be meeting the priorities workshop at 6 p.m. Comprehensive Plan Review Committee scheduled to meet Wednesday, July 17th, 6:30. Heart and Soul Team meets on Thursday, July 18th, 4 p.m. at the library, and the Select Board meets next in regular session on Monday, July 22nd, at a time to be determined depending on how long special town meeting goes.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any upcoming community events anyone wishes to share?
By all means.
Please.
Susan Silverio, you've probably seen the signs around town. The Strawberry Festival will be this coming Saturday from 9 to 12:30. The parade will begin at Drake's at 10 o'clock, picking up the kids on their bikes and the clown and the little horses at the library, proceeding to the meeting house church grounds for strawberry shortcake and children's activities. And we have been given, you might be interested to know, we've been given permission to park in the telephone company lot as long as it's not too wet. So we're hoping we're not going to have that extra inch of rain. And we also have permission to park behind in the Whitcomb's field, and that's been mowed for us. So we have parking attendants, we have several people directing traffic. There is a color guard, Sandy Lyle is on this as always, so we thank everybody for their cooperation.
Great, thank you. Any other events? All right, let's move along to the meeting minutes from the 24th of June.
I move the board approve the June 24th, 2024 meeting minutes as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much. And we have a liquor license renewal application from the Lafayette Lincolnville LLC, also known as the Lincolnville Lobster Pound, here in front of us. And I will entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve and sign the liquor license application submitted by Lafayette Lincolnville LLC.
So moved. Seconded, is there discussion?
I just wanted, I had a quick conversation with the representative from the Lobster Pound previous to this meeting. As just a quick question. Item number 4, indicate the type of license applying for, and it's restaurant, and it says choose only one, but it's my understanding this is pretty much a copy of previous years, and also qualified caterer is selected. So I think we need to get that straightened out if we're going to approve this. And it's my understanding that nothing's functional right now, and this is just a act of procedure, so to speak.
Oh, sorry.
Could just,
Yeah, come on down.
I should have said it.
No, that's all right.
Question.
My name is Katie from Lafayette Hotels, and the current liquor license expires in August. And so this next liquor license would go through next season. So we're not sure what we're gonna do next season, but we wanna make sure we have the liquor license in line. And I really just copied from last year, so I don't believe we've ever done any catering, it's just at the Lobster Pound. And so I don't know why that was ever checked. So we just serve alcohol at the property.
So for clarification, you'd be seeking the restaurant class 1, 2, 3, and 4, and not the caterer. So David, can we
We can do anything.
amend that? White it out, do we, white out still a thing?
Why not?
There's a lot of it.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that clarification. Any other questions while we have the representative at the podium? Thank you so much for clarifying
When
that.
should it be picked up, the paperwork?
It'll be available tomorrow,
Okay. I'll
or we
send
can
somebody.
mail it to you, whatever works.
I can send somebody down
All right.
to pick it up.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
so much. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, as amended? Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And moving along, we have a variety of, our required reappointment or consideration of reappointment of individuals wishing to continue to generously serve our town, as well as some new individuals, some of which are here tonight. And so I think it's just a point of order. We should consider the expiring committee terms and the individuals who have expressed, as of this packet getting put together, interest in continuing to serve. And so really it is up to the board whether or not they wish to appoint as a group or individually. And I will entertain a motion.
I move that the board appoint the committee members requesting reappointment to the positions and terms set forth on the expiring committee terms list dated July 5th, 2024, and that Sandy Lehman be appointed as a regular member with a term expiring June 2025.
So moved?
Second.
Seconded. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And we have a smattering of individuals who are willing and interested to participate and serve on the budget committee, which is wonderful. And so I will entertain a motion.
I move the board appoint Patria Allen, Nancy Late, and Glenn Sampson to the budget committee with a term ending at the 2025 annual town meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much, and thank you so much for your interest.
Did I choose to abstain?
Okay, yep,
Okay, or just
Yep.
not vote?
Yep. Abstention? Okay,
And one big abstention.
and thank you so much.
Thank you.
for serving.
And moving along, we have a new interest to the Heart and Soul team. And we have an individual who's able to be here tonight, and another individual who wasn't able to come, and so they will be here at our next meeting, but I will entertain a motion.
I move the board appoint Clifford Cameron to the Heart and Soul team with a term ending June 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate it.
And as we moved and approved the first motion, there's no openings on the harbor committee at this time, so we thank you, the individual, for the interest, and we'll keep them on the list. So that concludes agenda item number 7. So, moving along, we have the chair of the school committee here to chat with us. About all kinds of things. Yeah, hi, welcome.
I'm Tracy O'Brien, Chair of the School Committee. And mainly I just wanted to get on the agenda just to be able to start figuring out what are the coordination of between the two committees, because that has been brought up a few times at our meetings, and I think when we were here, we were hearing that too. So essentially trying to get some actual tangible, what is that gonna look like of the communication before the coordination between the two committees? What can we do? Does it need to be a subgroup? Do you just want someone to come once a month to read out? Or like what works for you guys? But also helping ensure that the school has all of the necessary requirements for it to be the safe shelter for the community as well. So that's what, it's pretty open-ended, but I guess any ideas that you have, we were thinking of some type of subcommittee to help look at just the building itself to start with. Just so we can do that 5-year planning of looking at the boiler, looking at the generator, looking at whatever else might potentially be needing to be repaired, fixed in the next few years.
This is awesome, thank you so much for having the conversation and opening this conversation. I imagine that it's not gonna be a one and done, I mean,
I don't think so either, no. I just wanted to get the motion, like the wheels in motion.
Yeah.
Instead of kind of, we've been talking about it, but what actually is that gonna look like?
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of having a select board representative on some kind of, you know,
Joint
even if
subcommittee or
it's just
something.
sort of like an ad hoc temporary thing to
Yeah.
get the wheels in motion, so to speak. I know you mentioned the public facilities director, I'm a little wary of that, just because his plate has become real full all of a sudden. But I think, you know, if we have a select board member that's interested in participating, and that could be another conversation, you know, figuring out who we wanted, you know, and appointing and whatever, you know, and figuring out like a charge for that.
Okay.
I think would be helpful, but I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, thank you again, this is great. I'm interested in serving on that. My only note, though, your reference to the public facilities director is, he's now the EMA, or our emergency management person, and that's part of this with the shelter. I
Yeah,
think it would be good to have, as long as we keep it minimal as far as the.
well, I could see for like
Involvement.
a meeting, you know, and maybe
Right.
having Dale Rowley come down from the county, you know,
Exactly.
and sort of have like that sort of specific, like, we're ready to bring you in kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but that's my only thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then, you know, your concept of, you know, can we share contracts, get better, I mean, I feel like all of those things are, you know, it's just, the more we communicate, the better, I mean, we're all in this together, so.
It's all coming from the same taxpayers.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
The better rates we can get, the better it is. for
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Robin, you look thoughtful.
Well, totally on board with all this. I think, Steve, you'd be great as our representative on the committee. I just wanted to ask something that is not related specifically to that, but just to throw out ahead, is there any update on the audit situation? I know it has nothing to do with this, but didn't know if you.
Are you okay with that? Or I don't, it's your meeting.
I mean,
so
it's definitely kind of off topic,
It is
you know?
off topic,
I mean, it's.
But I figured.
I'm
it's a
also
great
happy to email
opportunity.
you an update,
Okay.
if that makes it, so that you can still get your answer, if that helps.
Yes, yeah, this is something, if, you know, your personal interest, you know, or we can have another conversation at another time, but I think focusing at, you know, the invitation at hand and not having mission creep would be helpful. So, yeah, so is there anything, any other mechanisms that come to mind for the board in terms of, you know, things that we can kind of jointly put our shoulders to the wheel to help with?
Well, there's layers of things.
Sure.
In my mind, there are layers of things. But it all starts with how the process is managed, in my mind. You mentioned our infrastructure manager, you know, our road commissioner, whatever we're calling him. Yes, but I feel, my personal opinion, and this is probably not the forum to get that out there, but I'm going to anyway, is that, well, and I've been saying it for years, and pretty much every other school has it, is every school needs a facility maintenance manager, interior, exterior. That has a daily, weekly, monthly, eyes on what you got going on. I'm not saying the school committee does this,
Right, no.
but I do know that we've paid good money to Cordia. And I'm not seeing what the benefits were. So, and that's for another conversation.
Yeah.
Okay? They don't manage grass cutting, they don't manage trimming, they don't manage driveways, but
They
they
do our
manage.
project management,
They have project managers, and when you get problems, they come back in. But in my mind, there should have been long-term from them. We can do this now, but this is what's gonna be done, needs to be done long-term. So that's information to draw from, but that was a lot of money spent. So,
And perhaps that can be
yeah,
part of a conversation that this subcommittee
Yeah.
starts, you know, I'd imagine that, you know, the school committee has a long list of stuff that's coming up, and the select board probably, you know, jointly, and then if we can develop some sort of joint charge for a subcommittee, with specific things to start working through, then it
and that's
seems-
where I was going. with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So this, you requesting this is music to our ears. We've tried in the past and been shot down
yeah,
verbally. And it's like,
not in recent history, but
not in
yeah,
recent
yeah.
history, but we have. And we don't want to control,
Yeah, no.
but we want to help.
You have input, yeah.
Yeah, and, but this is great, Tracy. It is great, and I want you to know that. And I know it's tough to stand up there and do this. It is, but this is what we want. It is.
And I'm hoping that it will also help us with the budget stuff, because I realized part of what was happening with the budget is we kind of always had these overages that then paid for miscellaneous things as they come up, and this will help with that, like strategic planning for actually putting in the budget for what do we anticipate to break down. So I will say part of the subcommittee, I'm hopeful will be able to help us build out like what do we need to put in budget year one versus something that likely will be 5 years down the road, whatever it may be, but, so that is something we're hoping to get out of it too, is to help inform us with our budget as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it sounds like a great first step, and, you know, it may evolve, you know, and it may,
Yeah,
it may give rise to something else also, but it seems like a really good, solid place to start.
And so Seth Anderson said that he would stay on, or he was fine being appointed as a subcommittee member as part of that. So kind of what we were thinking of, if it ends up being Steve or whoever from the select board, and then Seth and Justin, the principal, as kind of, and then if there are other people that feel like they would want to join, I mean, I don't feel like it needs to be a closed group necessarily. If somebody else wants to be appointed, if multiple people or someone else from the select board wants to, sure. But if those three start, or, you know, one person from ours, but I feel like the principal should be included in it since they're kind of running everything at the building itself.
Yeah.
So if that works for you guys, that would be, and then I can do like a email intro to say like, everything's all good, and then you guys can meet whenever.
So what do you think, and David, I'm gonna ask this question.
What does that look like?
Yeah, you and the board, you know, should we, like, on our next agenda, review a sort of preliminary draft charge for the school committee to then look at, so that we can kind of give timeframes, goals, that just give it a little bit of substance?
Well, it looks as though the makeup is really a school committee, subcommittee, so to speak. And
So get them to send us something, and then,
if they want a select board member, then pick one of you to do it and get it going. I mean, you could,
Yeah.
if it sounds like it's gonna get going sooner rather than later, you can pick one. It's kind of hard to volunteer when you don't really know the parameters, but it's hard to know the parameters when you don't.
Well,
We're still
jumping
brainstorming it,
lines.
yeah.
So, I don't know, I mean, you might want to look at the charge, but it's not like a joint, it's not like when we were doing the ball fields and it was a joint committee because we each had responsibilities.
Sure.
Because responsibility for oversight of the school falls to the school committee. And if they want to set up a subcommittee, so be it. And if they want to.
So we do have a facilities subcommittee already.
Yeah.
That would be, but which is what Seth is part of and Justin is part of. So if it makes sense to just have it as part of our facilities subcommittee.
Sure.
Because it's really the facilities that we're looking at, it's the building itself,
Sure.
if that works for you guys.
Do you have a job description for the facilities subcommittee or?
Not with me, but I
No, I
can
mean,
get it,
one-
yes.
And do they have regular meetings?
It's all been ad hoc of like when it is needed. During COVID, a lot of the committees met more often because you had to do more with the physical spacing of kids and
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff. So I would say whenever you guys have time to meet. In my mind, I was hoping it would start this summer, or at least the wheels in motion, because we would we start our budget like in February when we start pulling together the numbers, so if we can by January, February, get some idea of what we need to put in for the next budget.
Mhm.
That is kind of what we were thinking of, if that works.
Makes sense to me. Just getting it started.
So what's the board's thoughts in terms of participating in that way? Steve, since you threw your hand up right away.
I know,
It's an area of interest for me, and I've done facilities management for other facilities in the past, so.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to serve on that if that's the select board's pleasure.
Well, I feel comfortable, if this is a 1.0 version, and if it needs to be tweaked, then we'll tweak it.
yeah.
I'm really excited to be having this conversation, if it's like, okay, well, it's obvious this is working well in this way, we need to evolve it, or add more people, or whatever,
Mhm.
then I don't know, another conversation about it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel confident moving to, appoint Steve Ham to participate as a select board representative on the Lincolnville Central Schools Facility Subcommittee. And seconded, discussion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And and we'll get that rolling and see where it all goes.
So I will get to you the answer for the audit update, and then I'll also send out what the mission of the facilities subcommittee, what we have in our policy about it, and then I'll send out an email for you, Justin and Seth, so that you guys can meet whenever that works.
Sounds great.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Tracy.
Thank you.
And moving on there, we have the Heart and Soul team here to give us an update. All kinds of good stuff going on in town.
Cindy Dunham, Heart and Soul Team Chair. I just came to update you a little bit and to follow up from our last meeting. As you know, we've had lots and lots of input, and we're continuing to get more input and more feedback and more ideas, and we're moving more from the kind of the big broad thing to the action ideas. But since we have those statements, they've been vetted, you've seen them, they were on the town website, I didn't see them last time I checked, but I came to you last time and asked if you might be able to do a resolution approving those. I sent you a couple of options, and I would love to have some sort of resolution on the resolution.
Well, thanks for this, Cindy. We're given a choice between A or B.
Between the one paragraph or the
Yeah.
slightly longer.
Yeah, I always kind of, go to Bradley when I talk, right? And I kind of like the shorter version.
Agreed. Yeah. My only question, I know that this is a process, my only question is in adopting these resolutions, is it too soon? I don't know, are we waiting for a maturation point, or do you feel like?
I think we feel like those statements have been matured.
Okay.
Are what we feel very comfortable that we've gathered lots of feedback, lots of vetting. We vetted both all the all of those things that came through as what's important to people, what matters to them. We added some of the, we filtered through the concerns that people had. Then we had that big summit with creating those statements. We hashed those out, we put it out for another vetting for another month. And then we hashed it out a little bit more amongst some of us. And I look at Sandy because he was definitely part of making sure that the wording was well done. So I think, and since then I haven't certainly, and I don't think any of the rest of us have heard anything that says, oh, you missed this or you missed that. So it's been, what, a month, 2 months since that happened. So I think this would be a really good time for you to sort of say, yeah, this is sort of the end of the statement period, and this is something we as a community are ready to say, this is what we believe in, and these are statements that we would see as helping us as community members decide between two different things, or, to make decisions going forward. I hear you have a prioritization thing going on, maybe these would help you with that process, because there's a lot of people that have been involved, a real high percentage of folks, and so, yeah, I think now would be a great time
Sure.
for that.
Would someone care to make a motion as to which format?
So I would move that the board endorse or resolve the option B, the hard soul statements.
The much shorter alternative resolution.
Yes, option B, yes.
Well, it's not called option B.
Oh, I was option B. Yes.
Option B, subtext, the much shorter.
That's.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second. Okay, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It didn't really matter to me whether it was the longer version or the shorter version, so I think they both say the same thing, that these are important statements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Short, sweet, to the point is good.
Agreed.
As you know, we're continuing to have conversations on a bi-weekly basis throughout the summer. As you heard, we're having the one for safe access coming up this week, and as we've met with people around when I was putting posters and things, we've sort of said, oh, your business, you should come to the economy one if you can. We've also kind of tried to target and send special emails out to the chairs of committees that would be appropriate for some of the different phases of these. For your committee, I would strongly encourage you to come to September 5th, the public services thing. That'll be at the school. So far, we've heard nothing but good things, primarily about the public services in town, but I would encourage you to participate in that one. And then that will be the last one we do, and then we'll have another, our last summit maybe, to then determine the priorities of the action items that have been generated by all of these different conversations. So it's been fun. We've done 2 so far, and gotten some real good ideas, and some that sort of say, oh yeah, and this is how we could make that happen. And we don't have to worry the select board about making all the things happen. You do not have to worry that we're very careful to make sure that if we can get it done with volunteers around town that don't have to look through that, so much the better. And then, but having said that, the final thing that Mike Ray has been our liaison, as you know, to our team, and we are, as he is moving into other broader politics as well, we might like to have you choose a different, I think he might like to have us choose a different liaison if anyone is willing to do that.
Yeah, as I said, if the board wants me to stick with it, I'll stick with it. But I'm running out of time, and these guys deserve much more time than I can give them.
I'd be thrilled if you wanted to stick with it until such point that I feel like you can acknowledge when it is the responsible time for you to step away or for us to transition someone.
Well,
Unless you're saying that that's
That's
now.
what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
I just want to be fair to the group, I can't give as much time as I think it's worth.
I would say it's been extremely helpful to have the liaison, so that help us understand, and especially the other folks who aren't as familiar with the town government processes and all of that, to help them understand what our boundaries are a little bit, and just what makes it best for you guys too.
Well, if no one's jumping up and down right now, we can, we can think about it and then, at our next meeting,
I mean, I am interested, but I also still feel like very much in a fight with those guardrails you were just talking about. I would certainly not be a resource, so.
And I'm interested too, but like off the cuff, I can't necessarily commit to it, so I wanna think about it a little bit. And I don't wanna speak for these two gentlemen, but I think we should think about it and then probably have a decision at our next meeting.
Sounds fair.
Yeah.
We'll get by with that.
We'll
move on. We will not wait.
figure it out until then. Does that sound good, Mike?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
And I do know that you are all supportive of our process, so
And
I
I'm-
appreciate that, so.
Yeah, and I'm so curious to hear how the conversation goes with the safe access community conversation. I mean, I know we've had so many great conversations with DOT representatives and get really excited about the idea and then get really depressed about how much it costs.
Oh, boy, you're okay.
So I just, get other minds putting their minds to it and thinking outside the box, who knows? We can come up with something.
That's right. Yes.
It doesn't cost millions and millions and millions of dollars, yeah.
This is a good place to ask for millions of dollars.
Okay.
Oh, wait, you have other questions? I'm done with mine.
Any questions for Cindy?
No.
Okay, thank you so much for the
Thank
update.
you.
And moving along, we have the chair of the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee here to give us an update as well.
Good evening, Susan Silverio, and it was 3 years ago that you entrusted a committee, a group of 5 or 6 people, with the update of the 2006 comprehensive plan. So we've been working on that for 3 years. After the first year was when we undertook the community heart and soul process as our public engagement strategy. And that has been, you just heard the results of that. I'm really proud of that team that you appointed to carry that forward. And I wanted to give you a little bit of understanding of how this is all going to work together with the comprehensive plan update. And as you know, the town did approve funds for a consultant for the finalizing of the comprehensive plan. We, as a group of volunteers with the data available and the committee interviews we've had with you and others, have done our best with updating the data of several chapters. There are several chapters that are beyond our pen and do rely on the town officials to give us that information. And we really need a professional who can guide that process and bring our action items, which will be finalized at the end of the summer. We're looking forward to really presenting you with a beautiful professional action plan that will be the result of all of our conversations this summer and the prioritization. When that's in, then we want to have some technical assistance, someone who can help put that into a plan that can be presented to the state and then get approved by the state. There's lots of hoops there to go through, and then bring it back to our voters. That timeline is all in your packet there. I could go through that. You can look at it yourself. It would bring us up to the November 2025 voting period. That would be finalizing that plan. It wouldn't be quite 20 years old at that point, the 19-year-old plan. And so that's our goal. I hope it's not too aggressive. And we'd like to have finalized that with some professional assistance. So to that end, I asked David, so now what? What happens next? And he suggested that we put together a draft scope of work. So the comp plan review committee put together that, and that is in your packet, and that is for your consideration. We'd like to know, how you'd like to proceed. It seems like if you could finalize a scope of work and start putting that out for RFPs, requests for proposals, that it might be by the time we actually have our action plan in hand by October, then someone could be hired to pick it up at that point and carry it forward. So that seemed to make sense to us. I'm happy to hear what you might have in mind or what you foresee, but we look forward to hearing from you about how you'd like to proceed.
Sounds wonderful. Yeah, thoughts from the board?
Well, it makes sense to me, and it's just a matter of fact, excuse me, it's just a matter of the town coming up with a new scope of work, more detail, so it goes out for bid. And the town has between now and, you'd like to see the bids out.
That's why we've given you a draft,
Yep.
so
The
you'll
bids
find
out
it's
by
fairly
what date?
complete.
I'm sorry, you'd like to see the bids
We've
out?
given you the draft,
Okay, but
it's
does
in
it
your
have,
packet.
but does it have the dates that it would go out? That's what I'm asking.
The date,
What
so
date
that,
would you like
that's
to
why
go
I
out?
gave you, and then there's also a timeline.
Yeah.
So if you look at that timeline, excuse me,
I guess what I'd ask you, Susan, is what date would you like that to go out?
oh, as soon as possible. So the
Okay,
scope
that's
of
easy.
work, as we've already drafted it,
Okay.
we've drafted the scope of work, that's July of 2024. And then if the RFP could go out in August,
Go out and on. Thank you.
yeah, and then interviews could take place in September. And so possibly somebody could be hired in October, and they could get to work as soon as we meet with you. We would love to have, this is a very complex process. We not only have the Heart and Soul team, we also have the Comp Plan Review Committee, which is a chartered committee. So this is a standing committee with 3-year staggered terms. And we also have you as the guides for the decision-making in the town. We would love to get together all 3 groups so we see how all these pieces fit together. Heart and Soul's been focusing on Heart and Soul process. That is an amazing process in and of itself. Comp Plan Committee is up to our ears in the comprehensive plan. So we really need to get everybody together. We actually have our coach, our Heart and Soul coach, would be happy to lead a workshop with some exercises that might be beneficial for all of us to see how we're working, what our process is and how we're working together. So we're looking at October, that first week or 10 days in October for that workshop.
Karen, did you ever? I just want to say, it's really impressive, the structure that you have manifested from nothing. I mean, I know we have a comp plan, but it's really impressive to see what your group has created and what they're working on, and understanding the fervor with which that you're applying yourselves to this process. I guess I would throw out to the board, just given what the Heart and Soul team plans to accomplish this summer and what could come out of that. And then I'm really excited about this idea of the workshop in the fall, that in an effort to be as efficient with the dollars that our taxpayers have appropriated to hire a consultant, that maybe we look at timing, bring a consultant on around then, so that we can have the full body of both what the Heart and Soul team manifests throughout the summer, as well as what the comp plan comp plan review committee continues to bring forth.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great to have the consultant with us when we have that workshop? That would be ideal.
So that's, like I hear like right now, but I'm also feeling like there's some important work to be cataloged by us as a town first. So I just would throw that out to the board. for consideration.
Do you mean work other than the 4 items that are in the draft that are the town officials' responsibility?
No, I'm talking about what the Heart and Soul team are going to accomplish. Like, let the town continue to do its work on the committees. And then get the RFPs for consultant going later on in the summer so that we can dovetail bringing a consultant on once we have that body of information that the Heart and Soul team is working on gathering. Does that make sense?
No.
Well, I was talking about.
So you don't want to put out the RFP until after the chapters basically have already been drafted by the committees? I guess I don't see why they can't be in parallel, because the consultant's not going to be hired or given anything substantive to be working with until October, so that still did have the time to have the meetings and work for Heart and Soul to do their thing while the RFP was kind of wending its way through the process of people looking at it and deciding whether they want to bid on it and putting together their own bids and sending them.
You're pretty much saying the same thing, aren't you?
No, I don't
Send
think
it-
so.
send it-
I'm just not saying like right now, I'm saying
Oh,
like,
Yeah.
just like, let's give it a pause so that the,
But not
The way I-
after August, you don't mean to wait until, like, after, like, we were gonna be having public safety meetings September 5th. You don't mean to wait until after all of those meetings have happened, do you?
not necessarily, I'm just not necessarily thinking that it has to happen right now. David, you're.
Well, excuse me, it probably would behoove us to take what the comp plan review committee has put together for a scope of services, incorporate that into, not to say we have a standard RFP, but we kind of have a standard RFP that, you know, says when things are due for applications and what our timeline is and what our deliverables ought to be when we're all said and done. And we can take this, incorporate that into that, and have the comp plan review committee review that to make sure it's actually, you know, because sometimes things go to my desk and then they get turned back to committee and they're like, you're way off base. And make sure they're all on base and all on board with the same, we're all asking for the same thing. And then come back and say, hey, we're done, this is ready and prepared. And Susan's timeline of an RFP in August, interview in September and hire in October, probably doable. To a certain extent, anybody that's submitting a consultant proposal needs to know how far you are and where they're picking up and where they're going, so that they can accurately tell you how long that's going to take and how much money and effort they're going to need to do. And obviously, the more you have done, the more information you can provide, the better your response you're going to get back. But I would suspect that people or individuals or firms that might be responding to this are probably familiar with a heart and soul effort. We may want to roll into the conversation, the resolution, and statements. So I think we can kind of get there. Maybe late August, maybe late September, maybe late October by the time we're done, but.
Yeah, I was thinking 4 to 6 weeks, on our agenda, we'd have approval of an RFP to go out.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, just make sure that we've got all of our little ducks in a row so that your group is getting what you need, our taxpayers are getting what they need. Yeah, and then it happens.
in a timely fashion. Does that make sense?
Yes, well, just a point of clarity, our process is very structured. And our outcome is clearly identified, and we're going to be so proud to present you a really beautiful action plan based on all the data and work from several summits. And you might want to look at the Rockland Comprehensive Plan. It's on their website. It's an example of how heart and soul statements have been worked into their mission statement and also into all their chapters. So it's a really workable model. This has been done all over the country. So we're in really good hands with our coach. And also in consideration of taxpayer money, I probably should mention that the town gave us $10,000. It was matched by $10,000 by the Orton Family Foundation. So far, our coach continues to back down on what she is asking for. So it looks, and then also typically the project coordinator takes a salary also, about $10,000. I have foregone that. I'm not getting paid to do this, thank you, and you're welcome. And so the town has actually made a profit so far of about $97.30 on that $10,000 of taxpayer money.
Oh, we can't do that.
Well, okay, we'll spend it. We're going to have another event in maybe September 29th after the Common Ground Fair. That will be our final summit. And so we'll buy some beverages, some apple cider. And so we will probably have break even and still have $10,000 of your original funds in hand. And I did check with David. David, it's finally been confirmed with Kayla, who is the one to consult, that money will stay in the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee fund line item. So it will be available in case we need a little more help.
Great. That's excellent.
That'd be great.
Good. Thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome.
To be continued, for sure.
Can I ask?
Yes.
So just thinking of the whole timing in my head, so we're looking at, we're going to take this draft and incorporate it with the more boilerplate general RFP procedures that we've got, and so we're looking at having something at a future meeting of ours in August.
Yeah, I think Steve's pretty spot on, and 4 to 6 weeks for the backing and forthing between our meetings and then the comp plan review committee giving it the thumbs up and getting it out. That's probably a pretty conservative, safe timeline.
Yep. All right. Moving along, Select Person Ray, would you care to introduce this as you requested it to be on the agenda?
I did, yeah. Well, this, in a few conversations recently I've had with fire chiefs in the area, personnel, firefighting personnel, the whole proposed rules that OSHA is proposing to replace the 1980 fire brigades. Well, so updating those rules on safety at volunteer fire departments, or any fire departments, excuse me, is being considered up for public comment right now. They're looking at perhaps instituting that, however it comes out, in 18 months. Anyway, in conversations with them, it seems as if those rules, if adopted as they are, would really negatively affect a lot of volunteer fire departments around here. And so I just drafted, or actually, I was at a meeting where a letter was sent, and I just cut and pasted some of that, abridged it, offered it up to us to see if we wanted to send comments to OSHA regarding the effect it might have on our department. I asked Donnie to come by because he could speak a lot better than I can about what effects it might be. And
Well, we might as well
I'm asking
get you
to
up
come
to the
over
podium.
here. Thanks a lot.
Don Fullington, Fire Chief. Mike contacted me, and I've read through some of the OSHA proposals, but it doesn't list how many pages there's hundreds of pages. So I tried to scroll through and find, some of the more important things that I found were gonna drastically change volunteer fire departments. The biggest thing probably is gonna be the required training. You're gonna require, all members, volunteer or not, will have to be firefighter 1 and 2. Firefighter 1 is 110 hours of training. Firefighter 2 is approximately 54 hours of training. All chiefs and assistant chiefs will have to be trained to officer 1, 2, and 3, which is also another hundreds of hours of training. Basically, they're gonna force every fire department to be a full-time department, or we're going to all subsidize, and per se, Belfast Fire is gonna be the main hub, and we'll have 2 or 3 or 4 full-time fire department firefighters that are in Lincolnville and Northport and surrounding areas. Budget-wise, I haven't looked into it at all. I've seen some other towns in Maine that are volunteer, and they think at least minimum of like 700,000 for personnel wages. The other thing is they're not gonna allow any fire truck older than 20 years old, which would put us into replacing 2 trucks immediately, probably at the tune of at least, I talked with Greenwood about the last truck we purchased for about $650,000. It's about $900,000 to $950,000. The second apparatus wouldn't have to be quite so expensive, but you're still looking at $1.5 million to just be compliant with apparatus, and then we'd have another apparatus in probably 4 years that would then have to be replaced. And who knows what inflation's gonna do.
Yeah.
The other thing is I mean, if they force everybody in the country to do this, they're not gonna be able to make enough fire trucks. And they're gonna source out other places to do it, and the prices are gonna go even higher. So it's gonna change the volunteer fire service completely. It's probably gonna get rid of it, is what I would assume. I mean, it's too much to ask any volunteer to go through all that training. And there's also, I read some snippets of physical fitness tests that you have to pass. So, I mean, someone who's in their 60s or 70s who can easily drive a truck safely and pump a truck just as well as anybody else won't be able to be on the department. Let's see, I think the medical evaluations, there was a note in there about probably about every firefighter would be around $2,500 every year to have full medical evaluations if they're requesting. There's tons and tons of other stuff, but I mean, there's just a plethora of training that we're not required to do now, that everybody would have to do no matter what their position is.
That sounds bad.
It's very bad. I looked up online and it was like 89% of fire departments in Maine are volunteer.
Yeah.
It's a high percentage.
It's a very, very high percentage.
Is this a discussion
No, well,
countrywide?
no, as far as I know, they are proposed rules, which will be decided upon in 18 months. Whether they will be changed or not, I don't know. And so there's a public comment period up to July 22nd. And that's why I was asking if we could look at it now, because it was before our next meeting, I think. And, but no, the rules are proposed. So unless something changes, they go on.
I haven't found any statistics.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the rules definitely, if they're implemented, are gonna make a safer environment for firefighters. They're gonna be more physically fit. Still not a perfect world, but on paper, right.
Yeah.
They were worried about firefighter deaths as far as heart attacks and stuff like that happen either on your way to the call or on your way back or at home after the call. It's not a perfect world, and we can't save everybody if you want to volunteer, you should be able to volunteer.
Wow.
And there's as you said, there's so many jobs for so many types of abilities.
Right.
And excluding those.
Right, well, that's why we introduced that reserves program.
Yeah.
I think we gained 6 new volunteers out of that reserve program, that have gone from reserves to actually, you know, we're working on getting them trained as firefighters. Granted, some of them are not going to be driving a truck, they're gonna show up in direct traffic and stuff like that, but they're gonna share the load.
And the proposed rules, I think it's the case that your reserves who are directing traffic would have to be turned out and have to have a whole new set of gear,
Yes, yeah,
which has to be replaced every 5 years because of PFAS. So you're looking at a lot of money per person to drive traffic.
it is it is a lot of money. We did, I think we started it was 4 years ago, we started buying new turnout gear, 3 pairs every year. We've almost got I think we have every interior firefighter with 2 sets of compliant gear. But yeah, I think when like the first month I was chief, all of a sudden we found out that all the fire gear was not compliant. And thank goodness for the community foundation and the community foundation and the money that they had donated, because I think we had to buy, I think it was $37,000 worth of turnout gear overnight to make sure that we were going to be compliant.
Well, Chief, would you be willing to put your head together with our town administrator to kind of revise? I mean, there's a bunch, thank you for putting together this draft, but there's a few things in here that don't necessarily apply to our community, and so would you be willing to work with David to create something? And would the board be willing, or is the board interested in sending such a letter to OSHA to voice our concerns?
Absolutely.
Certainly willing to send a letter.
Yeah, I'd like to see it as amended, you all can amend it more properly than we can.
David, do you need a motion for that, or is that
I think as long
not
as,
fine?
it might provide us, as long as you're comfortable with the letter that Dawn and I prepared, because if the deadline is in 2 weeks, you're not scheduled to meet again.
Yeah.
We certainly can submit something that we believe articulates the position of the community.
I feel based on, the tenor of this draft that we have, and it's only going to improve from there, so I feel comfortable.
Who would be signing, it? You?
I would suggest the select board side. And,
David Archie?
I'd be happy to sign
I
those.
don't, that's up to you all, I guess.
Yeah.
Whether you want to do that, I'm just asking.
I would feel
for state
comfortable
rules.
having my signature on that.
If that's the case, it would be good to have the board make a motion, and then we'll tell you when it's ready, you can sign it.
Okay. Would you care to
Rather
make a
than have a
motion,
special
since you brought this before the board?
Is it written down in black and white?
No.
Okay, so you put me on the spot.
Oh, wait, maybe.
As a budding legislator.
No, I think the idea is to stay silent for as long as possible. So I move that the select board authorize and send a letter to OSHA as amended by our chief and town administrator.
So moved. Seconded, and any further discussion? Seeing nothing, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And then you might not want to go anywhere because you're up next.
Actually, one more thing I'd like to point out is that, just to all the people with TV land listening, public comment is open until the 22nd, the individuals can respond.
Yeah.
To OSHA, and there's a link in our packet for just that, if anybody wants to do it individually.
Great.
The link is in our packet, which is on the town website.
Okay.
So moving along, we have the chief here to talk to us about firefighter wage adjustment and pay frequency.
So, as of the new fiscal year,
Yes.
members of the fire department get paid $18 per hour for calls and for trainings. So David in the town office looked up pay frequency, and David found that, it says employees must be paid in full, at least every 16 days. I found this would be a tremendous task for me to take care of. Basically try to do it every week, which would be every Tuesday, to get it into Kayla to get payroll out. So David sent me some other information. and did some reading, and in definition online too, is kind of the best definition for what we have. We're a municipal fire department, which is an active member, whether full-time, part-time, or on call of the municipal fire department who aids in the extinguishment of fires, or an individual who receives compensation from the municipality for aiding in the extinguishment of fires. And we got talking back and forth on making sure that we're doing what's right so the town doesn't get in trouble. I also read in the timely and full payment of wages section down at 6, it does list volunteer firefighters. And it says, notwithstanding subsection 1, a municipal fire department may make payments owed to a volunteer firefighter at regular intervals not to exceed 6 months. So what I'm looking for is approval to do quarterly payroll, approval from the select board. There's no real definition that actually puts Lincoln Fire Department under it, because we're not full-time, we're not part-time, and we're not on call. We show up when the tone goes off, so kind of call firefighters. So we want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
So I certainly understand if it's mandated that you have to do this if fire department members need to be paid every 14 days, that's a lot of time, figuring hours, submitting hours on a timeline. But is it gonna be any different, and is it gonna potentially be as accurate if you do it quarterly? Because you still need to, or someone still needs to track hours, who was at each call, and submit that. So which one is gonna be easier?
For me, the quarterly one would be easy, and just because every week I'm not driving from home to the station to do the reports, to pick up the paper run sheets. So we do paper run sheets, check off everybody's name, that was who was there, the address. Sometimes the times are not filled out, which is why I rely on what dispatch emails me. So they give me a time for when the call goes in, when we get toned out, when we go in, when the first apparatus or chief officer goes en route, when every apparatus and chief officer's on scene, what's going on during the scene if we make updates, when we clear, and then when the last apparatus is in quarters. So when I do it, it's from the first apparatus that goes en route till the last apparatus goes in quarters. And that reporting software, I enter all that stuff in for every truck, and then it gives me an option to put which firefighters driving the truck, and then what other firefighters also came to the scene and worked. So it then generates from those times the work hours, and then we transfer that over to a payroll that I then send to Kayla.
Is there something that would be more user-friendly? Obviously, there's a lot of information right there. But is there something that would make it more user-friendly between the fire department and the town office?
I don't know, because the hard part is sometimes if we have a call at 1 o'clock in the morning at, say, just duck trap condos, and they call and cancel.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna drive all the way up here to fill out a run sheet at 1 o'clock in the morning, because David and I talked about that, on having the run sheets available for Kayla to just grab from the station, but they're not always filled out. They're not always, the guys, members sometimes write down the times, but I wanna make sure the times coincide with the actual email times with dispatch, God forbid anything happens.
Yeah.
We wanna make sure.
It's gonna be a work in progress until it's.
It is,
But do we pass the straight face test as being called volunteer firefighters anymore?
Yeah, so that was my
well,
next question.
that's the thing, because
Because we're not technically now, right?
we are, because we're not being paid, we're getting paid when we go to the call, but nobody's being paid to stand by and go for the call, and nobody's obligated to go to the call. There's no schedule for me, for deputies, assistants, or firefighters, it's just, when the tone goes off, whoever goes, goes. I mean, there's no actual legal requirement for anybody to actually show up to every call.
So there's been no contract, an obligation,
Right.
so
There's
therefore,
no- right.
you're not an employee, basically.
Correct.
You're not, there's no, if you read English, I'm not an English major, there is no stretch of the imagination that the way we operate, or we're going to operate, that we qualify as a volunteer firefighter. I mean, it clearly says someone who's a member of an association, which we're not, who receives no compensation from the municipality other than injury or death benefits.
Which we exceeded that.
Which if we're gonna pay people on an hourly basis, you don't, in my opinion, qualify as a volunteer firefighter.
Right, but we do qualify as item 5, volunteer municipal firefighter. That was gonna be my question, was the definition of the volunteer municipal firefighter. Sounds like ours, on-call, receives up to 20% of the compensation was my question
We don't have.
to you going to be like, with our volunteers, do we end up getting more than 20% work?
We don't have a full-time,
There's no
No.
full-time position to base it off of.
No, but I mean, usually full-time is defined as what, 36 hours a week or something like that. Like if we're not regularly having people hitting, what's 20% of that?
20%, most of them probably never get.
7.5 hours a
No, no.
week.
Yeah.
It seems like then they all basically qualify as volunteer
There's a-
municipal.
There's a big dichotomy here of one page says volunteer fighter can receive nothing. The next page says you're paying volunteer firefighters. We need a legal decision
Right,
on
well,
this.
you're paying them, if they're a volunteer, you're paying them for their injury or their death benefit. That's what you're paying, that's the compensation.
It's not clear though, it says
Yeah,
the municipal
but I-
fire may make payments
Yeah.
owed to a volunteer firefighter on the next page.
Right,
So,
I agree, but what it says on the first page that you can pay them for is for injury and death benefits. And if you, I got the fine chore of asking the Department of Labor,
okay.
and they're not all that helpful, or weren't. And they said, follow the law, okay? And then they kept saying, are they volunteers? And I said, well, the definition says this, and because they know that there are places around that, this is my interpretation of what he was saying, that they are turning a blind eye to the thing. But they also tell you if you do it wrong, you're subject to triple damages. And if you want to subject the community to the potential for that, I know it's a hardship on the chief. We've got to develop a system to do it. But,
We did also just pay a whole several $1,000s in fines for paperwork issues,
Should we get our legal counsel to tell us how to go on this, or?
Yeah, I mean, you've done payroll.
I
I
have.
think we've all dealt with the
Mhm.
Department of Labor, and they're a pretty unforgiving group, and I hate to say it, I think what has to happen is noses have to get plugged, and whether you delegate some of the responsibility to somebody else to help it not be such a burden, we could get legal to just
Yeah.
make a statement like, nope, sorry, there's no way of
Yeah,
splitting this.
no, I would appreciate that, because I've spoken with the Rockport chief, they pay all their volunteer members every 6 months. Camden pays all their volunteer members every quarterly. And not that that matters, so I know the Camden chief they've had their attorney look at it, and that their attorney's been okay with paying their volunteers, not their full-time employees every 3 months. Serious month.
and then the question that comes to my mind is if we go to quarterly and Susie firefighter puts in 50 hours and Don turns in 50 hours, do we then pay 40 hours at regular and 10 at time and a half? Because if you work 140, you get paid time and a half.
Well, but that's in a week.
right?
Is it a week, a pay period?
Yeah, but if
I don't
the
know.
pay period is quarterly, then
How
it
do we-
wouldn't be 40 hours in a quarter. It's,
It's like when you pay people every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you
you
No
don't
issue
pay
with
them
that.
time and a half for everything over 40 hours.
over 40 in the week.
So what does the board think? Do you want to have council review this and come back
I
with?
feel we should.
It's always a good idea.
Okay.
It's not free, but it's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly, you know, I feel like the way all of this language is worded, you can kind of interpret it how you want to, but how is the Department of Labor going to interpret it when push comes to shove? That's really what we have to.
Yeah.
We need to have a call on that.
Is this a Senate statute or, I mean, we need a representative to amend this law to actually take into consideration item number 5, volunteer municipal firefighter. Because like you pointed out, in the timely payment, it doesn't address volunteer municipal firefighters. It specifically goes out of its way, it's underlined subsection 4, which is the voluntary firefighters, which don't get paid, so. Somebody ought to tighten up this statute.
That's a state thing, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get our lawyer to, make a verdict, and then we'll, see what we're doing here. My question though is that aren't we going into the second week of technically a pay period here? So what are we gonna do in the meantime? Do we get to just be in limbo, or do we need to do payroll?
Do payroll.
Okay, great.
It may
Before we
not,
do leave it.
it may not happen on every Tuesday, but whether it happens on every Monday or Wednesday or what have you. I know Kayla would prefer to have it Tuesday night, so she has it for Wednesday, but we also schedule our meetings and our trainings on Tuesdays.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, when you mentioned the reserve people before, that it would be, it seems like doing an admin function like this could be something that some of the heavy lifting could be done by a reserve person, so that you didn't have to do all
Yeah, no, it's not a bad idea. The problem I've learned is volunteers don't always get it done when they're supposed to. It's, in my eyes, this job is on my shoulders.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chief.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And moving rapidly along, we have a special town meeting warrant, tentative date set for July 22nd. If there's no issues with the draft before us, I will entertain a motion.
I move the select board approve and sign the special town meeting warrant establishing the meeting for July 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the Lincolnville Central School.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I have one bit
Oh,
of discussion.
yes,
At this meeting, in
yes,
addition to the 2 ordinance changes and electing moderator, is the school budget meeting.
yes.
When that budget is set at this meeting, it then gets validated or it gets presented to the voters by a referendum ballot again. Wanted to know we're trying to do some internal scheduling of all these things that we gotta get done. If the board thought that it would be okay to actually conduct that voting here in the town office we're thinking like Thursday, August 22nd, I think is the date. Or if you thought we'd get grief for doing it here, when we should go over and sit in the school and do our thumbs all day and wait. I mean, are people gonna be disenfranchised by moving the location of the polling place?
Well, it's not totally
Well,
out of order. I don't know, I feel like we could post
I mean, we're talking about, an 8-hour day, right?
Oh, polling, we'll be open at 8 and closed at 8.
Right, okay, 8 days, okay, yeah.
Yep.
So,
We do it.
no, as long as you're willing to stay open, yeah.
Well, we'll find people that,
Yeah.
we'll have ballot clerks and whatnot.
Yeah, we'll have all the appropriate.
Yeah, that's what I,
And we're looking at doing a paper ballot, not programmed machine, because it's gonna be one question, yes, no, and.
Yep.
You know, to be able to
yeah,
count
they're gonna
that.
say something that is.
Well, you're gonna have a fair amount of your voters who participated this last time are our, either the aging workforce or our older citizens. And you know what they're used to, where we always have it. This is not a plug to stop change. We're more than adequate, we can be set up more than adequate to do it in here. Enter there, go out there, it would be fine, or whatever. But I'm just thinking about who's carrying the place, you know what I mean? And I think, let's do that for, you know?
That's why I bring it up.
And it's the school is, got nothing going on. You know, and I know it's a ways away to get it set up and everything. And I think I would like to see it in school. And I'm only one person.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it, first I got a question, David. Is this building, adequate for voting? I mean, do we have all the necessary precautions, or
We can conduct,
accessibility, et cetera, et cetera?
we meet all the accessibility rules, we can conduct a local election here.
Okay.
We could not conduct a state election here without getting the Secretary of State's office approval, because they've got a whole system for all that. But locally, that falls under your
Okay, yeah.
jurisdiction.
And the second thing along this is, current to your point, I would expect some
Pushback.
consternation.
Yeah.
You know, oh, yeah. But at the same time, I also look at it as a way to save money,
I agree.
you know?
I agree.
And I like to think that David can get a couple things done in this
Well, it may-
building, well, rather than be in that building.
Yeah, I mean, elections is not someplace to, you know, look to cut the budget or say.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I don't wanna needlessly spend money, but, on the same token, I wanted to bring this up because we'll be drafting the special town meeting warrant for that referendum election for you to approve at your next board meeting after the special town meeting, so we can get word out to people that, hey, you can vote absentee, you can do this, and here's the regular day to vote. And we don't wanna have this discussion in 2 weeks when we're looking at a short window anyways to vote. I mean, it's not short, it's 30 days, but.
I could argue it both ways. I mean, frankly, I was shocked and horrified at the amount of conspiracy that was being thrown around leading up to the last vote. Well, in advance of the last vote, like, there were secret meetings, we're hiding things from people. You know, we don't want people, the board select board, even though it wasn't our budget. You know, so on one hand, I think that this is a great facility. I think it would host the event well, but I'm not opposed to having it at the school for the sake of eliminating any sort of variable, because we want it to be as easy and straightforward for people to be able to participate in the system.
Easy and straightforward is what people have always done and expect to have, it's just at the school. No question about that. And that's gonna avoid, well, it's never gonna eliminate second guessing.
No.
But at the same time, it's gonna minimize it.
Right.
So just by consensus on getting, just to set it up. for the
Status
school,
quo,
and be done with it.
I think, yeah, I think, I would rather tell people that, you know, learning to deal with change is not a bad thing. We're we're having it here so that our staff can actually get the work done too.
Yeah.
You know, but.
Well, I mean, that's the challenge, is that there's very few people that understand the enormity of the work that it takes. And that's part of the job, right, as David said, you know, elections are one of the most important things that we do, and so it's not like we're looking to cut corners, but
I would just stick with our normal polling location.
We have to,
it's, you know, I guess I feel especially considering what a hot button topic this has been, so status quo, I guess.
Thank you.
That being said, any further discussion?
I would just like to comment that the process to get to this next vote was phenomenal. In that all townspeople need to understand that we entrusted our budget committee to do certain things and to evaluate everything with the same lens across all aspects of the budget, and they did that, and they walked away not approving things the first time around, and that was probably a big reason why that budget did not pass. And the result we had last Tuesday with the school committee and the budget committee was much different. So it was we should respect the process.
And I'd like to add for anyone watching this, that they should watch that budget committee meeting from last Tuesday, because so they'll understand what the process was, because I thought it was pretty transparently reported, and Ferry budget committee definitely was doing their due diligence during that meeting.
It's good to hear that. I was not able to attend that, I haven't watched it yet. I will, but it's good to hear that.
Yeah, I wasn't there either, I saw you on the screen, but yes, YouTube is a wonderful resource.
indeed, yeah.
Yes. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you all very much for a robust conversation. And so next up is something I requested. I was approached by Sheriff Trendy. As you may or may not know, there was an officer-related shooting where the sheriff's department was asked to respond. The Belfast police asked them to help on a call. And so they have a very specific process after that happens. Part of that is an incident review committee, and I was asked to participate on that committee as a municipal official, not as a Lincolnville representative necessarily, and so the ask is not in any way to represent Lincolnville specifically, more, I think it's just the experience perspective is my understanding. And after consulting with David, I felt I wouldn't feel comfortable. I would hate it if I heard after the fact that any other select board member participated in that kind of a thing, especially as a municipal official, and so I would just, you know, whatever you decide is fine, but having your nod of approval or a motion, I think would go a long way, especially to setting a precedent in the future.
This sounds very much to me like the restorative justice project when they have their restorative circles. I'm not sure that that's informed this process, but I mean, I've sat in circles as a community member. You always have someone from the community, and you know, I think particularly having an elected official from another town, it's kind of the wider community thing. Makes good sense to me.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly how many meetings, it's not a lot of them, and it's just leading up to the actual adjudication of the events, so, yeah, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move the board authorize Chair Dunn to participate on the Waldo County Internal Incident Review Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And I will abstain. Thank you all very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
And moving along, agenda item number 15, we are suddenly getting all sorts of information from the DOT. And David, I would love for you to introduce these various, well, there's a ask and then there's sort of a FYIs, right?
Yep. So the first is the ask. DOT, as I understand it, is getting ready to bid out the road portion of Route 1 in Camden. Right now, they're obviously, if you've been to Route 1 in Camden, they've got a diversion around where they're doing a bridge project. But they're then going to connect where they leave off of the bridge project through to the state park and through Winterville, Camden town line. And they are looking for agreement from the municipal officers that they would grant permits for overweight vehicles on local roads.
Why would we do that?
So
Be a team player, I don't really know.
So
No.
they can save time taking the back route on a municipal road as opposed to
Do we need to make
drive
a?
on the state road? Is that?
I,
I guess, I think that's what they're asking.
It's tough enough for this town to maintain the roads if they're used properly,
Exactly.
let alone let.
it's our biggest cost center.
It is. I am not interested at all in getting behind this.
I don't have a problem telling the state,
Yeah.
or,
You can, you're big kids, you can figure it out.
yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, you have a road right there. Let's use that one, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you need a motion or?
No, if the board declines to approve that, I would just let George McDougal know that
Okay.
the board considered it and declined to approve or sign the whatever form and move on.
Yep.
Okay, so overweight is going to do something. Okay. The other two are notices to the community and to the select boards that DOT is working on preliminary engineering for 2 highway projects here in Lincolnville. One would begin at Carver Lane and extend into the town of Northport, and the other would be either begin at, I guess I'll say begin at the Camden Lincolnville town line and proceed to the beach road or where they left off the project in 2006. Those are we're doing preliminary work at this moment in terms of survey. They do plan to have a preliminary virtual public meeting for the project as soon as they understand what they have for road conditions. And we'll send them notices to the town, to impacted property owners, to the newspapers, to get that out. And then at some point, they will be looking to have a meeting with the town DOT later this summer.
For real life, in person?
That's what I took away from that, and they sent the same notice to the town of Northport, and I reconfirmed with them that at least for that project, they'd like to do it jointly. They said yes, and they said they'd even be willing to sit in on the other half if we didn't object, maybe not to contribute, but maybe to be
Great.
around, so awesome. So we will be posting this on the public bulletin board and wherever else that they ask, so.
Great.
And they say in the email, it's 2027. That seems.
Any other questions for David on that? All right. And we've had conversations about parking attendants. Anyone wishes to nominate?
You don't want me doing parking tickets.
It's like nominate one of ourselves.
Well,
I'm sorry.
any willing, I mean, you know, it's a problem, but who are we gonna get to do the job?
Well, the only thing I was thinking is we don't wanna keep throwing stuff on Mr. Dean, but he's supposed to be down there on a regular basis as the assistant harbor master and such. It's harbor related, it's parking, traffic, et cetera, and it's been a nightmare down there. This is the worst year I've seen it in the last 3 years, 4 years, with the amount of cars that are just,
I wanted to mail a letter, post office, well, it's no parking, because people are walking from there in bathing suits to the beach. But parking in the post office parking lot.
but all those 4-hour spots are
Oh, yeah,
gone before 8 AM.
Yeah, those are gone, yeah.
And you watch the people park their car and walk to the ferry.
Yeah.
And to at least have a second person that's empowered to write tickets down there, so it's not just Dave, is what I was thinking.
I agree that there should be a second person. I don't agree that Matt is the right person for that. And I'm just saying.
Yeah.
My personal opinion.
It is part of the, well, when we had a full-time public facilities director, it is part of the job description to oversee parking. Obviously, with our current public facilities director not being full-time, there's things that have given, and we've just also assigned some other duties to him. Matt's willing to accept it if that's something the board wishes to do, but he's also saying, well, how am I supposed to be at Calderwood Lane and down to there and at the pier and at the park? And I'm like, well, this is part of the challenge we all face is, the juggling of this thing. And if the expectation of the community or the board is, if you put, I'll pick on him for a moment, if you put him in that role, the expectation is that it's gonna change the parking system down there dramatically. It's not.
No.
You could write every day. I mean, there was a day last week where there were more tickets written in one day than there had been ever.
Who's the overseer or manager of the ferry facility down there currently?
Jackie.
Can we nominate her?
I think part of the challenge is that the ferry service sells more parking passes than they have spots.
Right.
And
I mean, that's,
people, where do I park? And they're like, well, the lot's full.
figure it out.
Look around. And,
Yep.
I mean, we've had people parked on private property without, not that we're enforcing it, without permission of the property owners. And I'm gonna venture a guess when the Jersey barricades get moved from McLaughlin's Lobster, the former McLaughlin's Lobster Shack, there's gonna be people parked from the edge of the beach to the Route 1, and every square inch in between.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
How much are the parking tickets?
That's the other thing that's, the first offense is $10, costs $12 to park in the state spot.
I thought we had a conversation about upping that
This-
significantly.
Well, second offense is 25, and you can be subject to towing or being immobilized if you see second time on.
In another iteration of the board, I recall us being like, do not pass go, do not collect $200, just go straight to the tow or boot 'em. I mean, I know that sounds rough, but.
I would like to see the town budget for a few boots myself. or scour the earth for a towing company that you can rely on, you contract with them.
I mean, I guess it's just like $10 is laughable.
Right.
It's what the DOT charges, right? Or
No,
did they go
DOT
up?
charges 12.
Oh, they've gone up, yeah. So, you know, we're a discount parking
Sure. Yeah.
by, you know, service by default. And so, you know, I would like to see us, and I don't know if that's something we have to put on a future agenda or the next agenda is look at reviewing our fee schedule or penalty schedule for parking violations. But I think that, you know, if we could get, you know, rather than formally maybe appointing that as a parking attendant, but revising the penalties for parking violations and then getting a joint effort of Matt and David and just being like, look, we're serious about people having fair and equitable access to our parking spaces.
Did we have this conversation a year ago, or am I remembering something from before I was on the board, as far as actual looking at a parking lot attendant? I thought at one point there was some discussion anyway.
We've had parking attendants in the past that we were budgeted for, and then there were years where we couldn't find anybody. Couldn't find anybody to fill the void.
Yeah.
Which seems kind of odd, because it's a beautiful place to go hang out.
Yeah.
But
But what does everybody think about that? You know, looking at increasing the penalties?
You're right, $10 is laughable. And it's economical to stay there for 4 hours for a $10 fine.
Yeah.
I think the $10 in my mind is it is laughable, but at the same time, it's okay, yeah, I got caught. Happens the second time, then it's more consequential.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at least, not last year, but the year before, I mean, I remember hearing Scott Underhill's comment about, I'm gonna park up the street now, whatever, and I'm not sure if he got a ticket or not, but for whatever, somebody must have said something to him, and next thing he was parking up at Bald Rock Builders, every day.
So everyone would be interested in having a conversation
I think it deserves a conversation.
about looking at our penalties and
Oh, sure.
going from there.
And you said you already talked to Matt about that, and that is on that job description, I remember that.
yeah,
I don't think it's gonna change anything, but I think just having if it's a day that it's just crazy down there and somebody goes, mentions it, be like, yeah, Matt, when you're down through there, stop. We're not expecting that it's gonna change the overall.
But I think it could be a really good, parallel track of having increased oversight, having to pinch a little bit more. Will take the pressure off.
No, I agree, I'd like to have a conversation, but another thing, going back to what DOT does and double booking. Okay, so, fill me in, what kind of conversations has the town of Lincolnville had with DOT on that topic in the past? Have we ever sent them a letter saying, you ought not to do this, folks, because it's hurting our town? I assume that we have not. And even though it might fall on deaf ears, I think it's necessary to get it on a record.
Well, I think that's why, at least personally, my interest in interfacing with this parking project manager to be able to bring up just that. It's like, look, historically, we have bore the burden of your decision-making paradigm,
Right.
which has negatively affected our facilities, and we're looking at amplifying that essentially.
Yeah.
So how do we address past mistakes and move forward in a more positive way? So maybe I'm placing too many hopes and dreams on this face-to-face meeting that ostensibly
And on the Zoom meeting we did have, I know at least one of the people that got up and spoke at the podium that night brought up the fact that that they oversell parking passes there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know how much movement there is with I can't remember his name. Orel, thank you.
No, I don't know how much movement, I wouldn't expect any movement, to tell you the truth. But I think it's good to get on the record.
It needs to be said.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Well, maybe we can see how this process unfolds, and if it's like just nothing, then, you know.
Yeah.
We'll draft another thought missive to our friends at the DOT. Okay, anyone wanna make a motion?
I'm gonna make the motion.
There you go,
I move the
Steve.
board appoint Matthew Dean as the parking attendant with a term expiring in June 2025.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, well, we've already had robust discussion, but, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? Can't vote against it. Those- There you go, Steve. And before proceeding with agenda item number 17, I first need a motion, please.
I move that we suspend our meeting as the select board and that we convene as the board of assessors.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And before us, we have a supplemental tax warrant, and Vern's explanation. David, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I don't think so, but maybe for anybody that's here.
Sure.
Because we actually have audience members tonight,
We
or
do.
anybody watching at home. The property owner who was in the tree growth program and in open space has voluntarily sought to withdraw from those two programs. And there are financial consequences associated with that, and in this case, the amount is $300.
Thank you for that. Will someone care to make a motion?
Move the board approve and sign the supplemental tax warrant to Heidi Perkins for tree growth and open space withdrawal penalties in the tax amount of $300.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you, and before we can proceed with the rest of our agenda, I do need a final motion.
I move that we adjourn our meeting as the board of assessors and reconvene as the select board.
Second.
Moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much. And Kern, do you have an update for us?
I have nothing.
You will.
I will.
Someday.
Someday I will.
Mike, do you have an update for us?
I have less than current. I have nothing.
But I know that you will. Steve, do you have an update for us?
Nada.
Robin?
I do.
Excellent.
So I've gotten my email from the county that I was elected to the budget committee. Sure, we got that. And I actually have a meeting, Monday the 15th with Ferry and Barbara in the office to talk about some issues that I got educated on in the course of the budget, of going through the budget last year, and I want to make sure we don't end up repeating the same issues this year, so.
Excellent. Woohoo, hey, learning from mistakes.
Yes.
That's great, thank you. And I will be having the second meeting of the workforce housing, affordable housing group for Waldo County on the 11th, and it'll be a Zoom meeting. And my understanding is that we're gonna try to get into some more substantive information, and so I look forward to reporting back to you all on the 22nd about that. Moving on, we have the treasurer and payroll warrants to approve and sign.
I move the board approve and sign the treasurer and payroll warrants.
So moved,
Sir.
seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much, and is there anything else the board wishes to attend to? If not, I will entertain a final motion, please.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very much, and keep your pens out.
Fortunately, you don't have all the committee appointments tonight because Karen was on vacation